You're standing at your kitchen counter at 6:45 in the morning. The coffee maker is humming. You crack 2 eggs into a pan, the same way you've done 1,000 times before. Maybe you add a little butter. Maybe you reach for the toast. Maybe you pour yourself a glass of orange juice because that's what breakfast looks like. And then 2 hours later, you check your blood sugar. 198, 212, sometimes 225. You stare at the number and you think, I ate eggs. Eggs are supposed to be healthy. What am I doing wrong? Here is what nobody tells you. It was never the egg. It was never about whether you should eat eggs or avoid them. It was about 7 specific decisions you make around that egg. Decisions so small, so automatic, that most people with diabetes never even realize they're making them. Those 7 decisions are silently determining whether your fasting blood sugar sits at 165 every morning or drops to 125.
Whether your A1C stays stuck at 8.0 or finally falls below 7. Whether you spend the next decade fighting your body or working with it. Tonight, I'm going to walk you through every single one of them. My name is Dr. Lexa. I have spent over 2 decades studying the intersection of metabolic health, nutrition science, and aging, specifically for adults over 50 who are managing type 2 diabetes and trying to live with real energy, real independence, and real control over their numbers. If you are over 50, if you are watching your blood sugar, if you have ever felt confused, frustrated, or betrayed by your own body despite doing everything you thought was right, this message is for you. And I want you to stay until the very end. Because the 7th decision I'm going to share involves something called your cortisol glucose window. It has to do with what happens inside your body in the 90 minutes after you open your eyes each morning. When you understand it, breakfast will never look the same again. Before we get to the 7 decisions, I need you to understand something fundamental about how the diabetic body actually works. Because most of the confusion around eggs and diabetes comes from skipping this part. Here is the truth. When you have type 2 diabetes, your body's first problem is not necessarily that it cannot produce enough insulin. Many people with type 2 diabetes produce normal amounts of insulin, sometimes even more than normal. The deeper problem is that the cells in your muscles, your liver, and your fat tissue have become resistant to insulin's signal. Your pancreas is shouting the message, but the cells have turned down the volume. They have gone partially deaf. Now, here is what that means for your breakfast. What you eat in the first meal of the day directly affects how sensitive your cells remain to insulin for the next 12 hours. High-quality protein slows gastric emptying, meaning glucose enters your bloodstream gradually instead of flooding it all at once. Specific amino acids in eggs, particularly leucine, stimulate your pancreas to release insulin in a more precise, proportionate way. 2 large eggs contain approximately 13 grams of complete protein with all 9 essential amino acids your body cannot manufacture. And here is the part that changes everything. The glycemic index of an egg is essentially 0. By itself, a properly prepared egg does not raise your blood sugar by a single point, but that 0 only stays 0 if you handle it correctly. The moment you fry it in butter, stack it on white toast, or wash it down with orange juice, that protective power begins to erode. Not because the egg changed, because everything around it changed. Tonight, you are going to learn exactly how to protect that 0. Decision number 7, what you cook your eggs in. This is where most people unknowingly sabotage themselves before they've even taken a bite. Here is what happens inside your body when you fry an egg in butter or oil at high heat. The added fat, even healthy fat like olive oil, significantly increases the caloric density of the meal. But more importantly, when fats are heated to frying temperatures, they temporarily worsen what scientists call postprandial lipemia. That's the flood of fat particles in your bloodstream after a meal. A landmark study published in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism found that elevated postprandial lipemia directly impairs insulin signaling at the cellular level for up to 6 hours after the meal. In plain English, the butter you use to cook your morning eggs is still affecting your blood sugar response at lunch. I had a patient I'll call William, 64 years old, former engineer, meticulous about everything. He tracked every meal, every blood sugar reading, every medication dose. His eggs were always cooked in what he called just a small pat of butter, maybe a tablespoon. When I asked him to switch to cooking his eggs dry in a non-stick pan with zero added fat, he was skeptical. They won't taste as good, he said. I asked him to try it for 2 weeks. Just 2 weeks. His average post-breakfast blood sugar dropped from 187 to 149. That's a 38-point difference from removing 1 tablespoon of butter. The fix is simple. Use a quality non-stick pan over medium heat. Crack your eggs directly into the dry pan. Scramble them gently with a spatula. They will cook beautifully in about 2 to 3 minutes using only the natural fat already present in the yolk. Or boil them. Hard-boiled eggs require no added fat whatsoever. You can prepare 6 on Sunday night. They keep perfectly in your refrigerator for 5 to 7 days. Peel one in the morning and your entire breakfast preparation takes less than 4 minutes. Here is the detail almost nobody mentions. Egg yolks already contain approximately 5 grams of fat per egg. Your body does not need additional cooking fat. The egg arrives complete. How many mornings this week did you add butter or oil to your eggs without thinking twice about it? Decision number 6. What you eat alongside your eggs. This one surprises almost everyone because the danger is not obvious. It looks healthy, it feels responsible, and it is quietly undoing all the protective work your eggs were doing. Here is what happens inside your body when you pair eggs with refined carbohydrates: white toast, flour tortillas, biscuits, hash browns. Your digestive system breaks down those refined carbohydrates rapidly into glucose. That glucose floods your bloodstream. Your blood sugar spikes. Your pancreas scrambles to produce enough insulin to manage the surge. And because your cells are already resistant to insulin's signal, that glucose stays elevated in your blood for hours. The protein in your eggs was supposed to slow that process down, but when the carbohydrate load is large enough, it overwhelms the protective effect entirely. A study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that adding 50 grams of refined carbohydrates to a high-protein breakfast increased the 2-hour postprandial glucose response by 67% compared to the same protein eaten alone. 67%. From toast. I had a patient named Dorothy, 69 years old, who came to me convinced that eggs were making her blood sugar worse. She had read that eggs were healthy for diabetics. She had started eating them every morning, and her numbers went up. When I asked her to walk me through her exact breakfast, she described 2 scrambled eggs, good, cooked in butter, not ideal but manageable, on top of 2 pieces of white toast with strawberry jam, and a small glass of orange juice because she wanted the vitamin C. Dorothy was eating approximately 65 grams of refined carbohydrates alongside her eggs. The eggs were not the problem. The eggs were drowning. The fix is straightforward. Replace the toast and juice with half an avocado and a generous portion of non-starchy vegetables. Spinach, tomatoes, bell peppers, mushrooms, any of these work beautifully. Here is why avocado specifically. The monounsaturated fats in avocado slow digestion and reduce the glycemic impact of anything else you are eating. A study in Nutrition Journal found that adding half an avocado to a meal reduced the 3-hour insulin response by 22% compared to the same meal without avocado. You are not adding food, you are adding protection. If you absolutely need something bread-like, choose one thin slice of true dense whole grain bread with visible seeds and eat it after the eggs and vegetables, never before. What did your breakfast plate look like this morning? Decision number 5. What you drink with your eggs. This is the invisible mistake, the one that hides in plain sight because it looks so innocent. Here is what happens inside your body when you drink fruit juice with your breakfast. Even 100% natural, freshly squeezed, no sugar added orange juice delivers approximately 24 grams of sugar per cup. And because the fiber has been stripped away during juicing, that sugar hits your bloodstream almost instantly. Your body does not distinguish between the sugar in orange juice and the sugar in a candy bar. Glucose is glucose. The speed of absorption is what matters, and juice is fast. A major study published in the British Medical Journal followed over 180,000 participants and found that replacing just one daily serving of fruit juice with whole fruit reduced the risk of type 2 diabetes by 7%. For people who already have diabetes, the effect is even more pronounced. Juice does not help you. Juice is liquid sugar without the protective fiber matrix that whole fruit provides. I had a patient named Gerald, 72 years old, who had been drinking a small glass of cranberry juice every morning for years because the bottle said no added sugar, and he believed it was supporting his urinary tract health. That no added sugar cranberry juice contained 28 grams of naturally occurring sugar per cup. Gerald was consuming the sugar equivalent of 7 teaspoons before 8 a.m. every single morning without realizing it. When he stopped the juice and switched to water with his breakfast, his fasting blood sugar dropped 18 points within 2 weeks. The fix: drink water, drink unsweetened herbal tea, drink black coffee if that is your preference. If you want vitamin C, eat an actual orange, the whole fruit, later in the day, away from your protein-focused breakfast. Here is the detail almost nobody mentions. The cranberry juice you bought for urinary health is available in unsweetened versions that contain only 4 grams of natural sugar per cup. If you need it for a specific health reason, read the label carefully and choose the truly unsweetened variety. How many mornings this week did you drink juice with your breakfast? Decision number 4: whether you keep or discard the yolk. This one comes from outdated information that has been thoroughly overturned by modern research. But the myth persists, and people with diabetes are still throwing away the most nutritious part of the egg. Here is what happens inside your body when you eat only egg whites. You get protein, about 3.5 grams per white, but you lose nearly everything else. The yolk contains choline, essential for liver function and fat metabolism, vitamin D, directly linked to improved insulin sensitivity, lutein and zeaxanthin, which protect your retinas from diabetic damage, B vitamins that support nerve health, critical for preventing diabetic neuropathy, the majority of the egg's healthy fats, which slow glucose absorption. For years, people were told that dietary cholesterol, the cholesterol you eat in foods, raises your blood cholesterol and increases heart disease risk. This advice was particularly frightening for people with diabetes, who already face elevated cardiovascular risk. Here is what the science now tells us. A landmark meta-analysis published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition examined 40 years of research and concluded that for the vast majority of people, dietary cholesterol has minimal impact on blood cholesterol levels. The bigger drivers of harmful LDL cholesterol are refined carbohydrates, added sugars, and trans fats, not eggs. In fact, a randomized controlled trial published in 2025 found that eating 2 whole eggs per day as part of a diet low in saturated fat actually decreased LDL cholesterol compared to a high saturated fat diet without eggs. And research from the same journal found that whole egg consumption improved cholesterol efflux capacity, that is, the ability of your HDL, your good cholesterol, to actually remove harmful cholesterol from your artery walls and carry it out of your body. The egg yolk you have been throwing away might have been protecting your heart all along. I had a patient named Susan, 58 years old, who had been eating egg white omelets for 6 years because her previous doctor told her to avoid yolks. Her vitamin D levels were chronically low. Her liver enzymes were slightly elevated. Her energy in the mornings was poor. When she switched to whole eggs, just 2 per day, her vitamin D levels normalized within 3 months. Her liver enzymes improved, and she told me she felt more satisfied after breakfast, which meant she stopped snacking on crackers at 10:30 a.m. The fix: eat the whole egg, both eggs, every time. Here is the detail almost nobody mentions. If you are one of the small percentage of people who are hyper-responders to dietary cholesterol, meaning your LDL does rise significantly when you eat cholesterol-rich foods, your doctor can identify this through simple blood tests. For the vast majority of people, this is not a concern. How many egg yolks did you throw away this week? Decision number 3: the timing of your first bite. This is where the real transformation begins, and it has to do with something called the dawn phenomenon. Here is what happens inside your body in the hours before you wake up. Your system releases a wave of hormones, cortisol, glucagon, growth hormone, as part of its natural preparation to get you out of bed and functioning. One of the effects of these hormones is that your liver starts releasing stored glucose into your bloodstream. For people without diabetes, the body simply produces a little more insulin and handles this quietly. For people with type 2 diabetes, that early morning glucose release can push fasting blood sugars significantly higher than they were at midnight. This is why many people with diabetes wake up with elevated blood sugar, even though they haven't eaten anything for 10 or 12 hours. The liver delivered glucose while they slept. Now here is the critical connection. What you eat for breakfast either amplifies or dampens this morning cortisol glucose cycle for the rest of the day. A high carbohydrate breakfast layers another glucose load on top of the one your liver already delivered. Your blood sugar spikes, your insulin surges, and you spend the rest of the morning on a metabolic roller coaster. A high protein breakfast sends a calming signal to your system. It feeds your muscles without triggering additional insulin chaos. It dampens the inflammatory response that cortisol can produce. A study published in the Journal of Nutrition found that consuming protein within 60 minutes of waking reduced cortisol levels by 23% over the following 4 hours compared to a carbohydrate-first breakfast. I had a patient named Richard, 67 years old, who worked from home and had developed a habit of drinking coffee and checking emails for 2 hours before eating anything. His first meal of the day often came at 10 a.m. or 10:30 a.m. His fasting blood sugar was fine, around 118. But his 10:30 a.m. pre-meal reading was often 145 or higher. His liver was releasing glucose all morning while his cortisol levels remained elevated, and he was giving his body nothing to work with. When he shifted his eggs to within 45 minutes of waking, his mid-morning readings dropped by an average of 22 points. The fix: eat your protein-focused breakfast within 30 to 60 minutes of waking up. Do not let that cortisol window run unchecked. Your liver is releasing glucose. Give your body protein to work with. Here is the detail almost nobody mentions. If you take diabetes medication in the morning, coordinate with your doctor about the optimal timing between your medication and your first bite. For most people, eating within 30 minutes of taking morning medication produces the best results. What time did you eat breakfast this morning? Decision number 2: what you ate for dinner last night. This one sounds strange. What does dinner have to do with your morning eggs? Everything. Here is what happens inside your body when you eat a heavy carbohydrate load in the evening. Your liver stores that glucose as glycogen, and then in the early morning hours, as part of the dawn phenomenon, your liver has an abundance of stored glucose to release. The bigger your carbohydrate load at dinner, the more fuel your liver has for its overnight glucose dump, and the higher your fasting blood sugar climbs before you've even opened your eyes. I call this the evening carbohydrate trap. You can eat a perfect breakfast every morning, but if your dinner is pasta, rice, bread, or potatoes, your overnight physiology works against you. A study published in Diabetes Care found that participants who reduced their evening carbohydrate intake by just 30% saw an average 14-point reduction in fasting blood sugar within 3 weeks. I had a patient named Robert, 66 years old, a retired school principal. Robert was already eating eggs for breakfast. Good for him. But his dinner every night was a carbohydrate-heavy meal: rice, pasta, bread with whatever protein his wife prepared. And around 9 p.m., he often had a small bowl of cereal because he felt slightly hungry before bed. His fasting blood sugar was consistently between 145 and 165, despite reasonably good daytime control. I introduced him to what I call the evening egg strategy. 3 nights per week, replace the usual carbohydrate-heavy dinner with a 2-egg omelet packed with vegetables, spinach, peppers, mushrooms, accompanied by a small green salad with olive oil and vinegar. No bread, no rice, just eggs and vegetables. 3 nights per week. After 3 weeks, his average fasting blood sugar dropped from 158 to 137. His primary care physician at his next appointment looked at his home glucose log and asked what medication he had changed. Robert told him, "I started eating eggs for dinner 3 times a week." The fix: at least 3 nights per week. Make your dinner protein-centered with minimal carbohydrates. Eggs are ideal because they are affordable, easy to prepare, and do not require elaborate cooking. Here is the detail almost nobody mentions. If you are on insulin therapy, significant dietary changes in the evening can affect how your insulin works overnight. Please speak with your doctor before implementing this strategy. Good communication with your healthcare team is part of the plan. What did you eat for dinner last night? Decision number 1: whether you actually start. This is the decision that separates people who improve their blood sugar from people who keep struggling year after year. Here is the truth. You can know everything I've shared tonight. You can agree with every word. you can understand exactly why these 7 decisions matter, and none of it will change a single number on your glucometer unless you actually begin. I have seen thousands of patients over my career. The ones who transform their health are not the ones with the most discipline or the most willpower. They are the ones who stop waiting for the perfect moment and start with what they have, where they are, tomorrow morning. Not next Monday, not after the holidays, not when life settles down. Tomorrow. The fix. Make one change tomorrow morning, just one. Cook your eggs without oil, or skip the toast. Or eat within 45 minutes of waking. Pick the decision that feels most accessible to you and implement it for 7 consecutive days. Then add another. Here is the detail almost nobody mentions. Perfection is not the goal. Consistency is the goal. One perfect breakfast followed by 6 chaotic ones does nothing. 7 imperfect breakfasts that all follow the same principles will change your numbers. The body responds to patterns, not exceptions. What will you change tomorrow morning? Actionable routine. Your complete morning protocol. Here is your exact plan starting tomorrow. I want you to write this down or take a screenshot. Within 30 minutes of waking, take your morning medication if applicable. Within 45 to 60 minutes of waking, prepare 2 whole eggs, scrambled without oil in a non-stick pan or hard-boiled from a batch you prepared the night before. Pair your eggs with half a ripe avocado and a generous portion of non-starchy vegetables, spinach, tomatoes, peppers, mushrooms, or any combination. Drink water, unsweetened herbal tea, or black coffee, no juice. Eating order: eat the eggs and vegetables first. If you need a small piece of whole grain bread, eat it last. Mid-morning if needed, one hard-boiled egg with a small handful of walnuts or almonds. This combination will hold you through to lunch without a blood sugar crash. Research published in Diabetes Care found that this type of high-protein, low-carbohydrate breakfast reduces postprandial glucose spikes by up to 40% compared to traditional carbohydrate-focused breakfasts. You can start this tonight by boiling 6 eggs. Tomorrow morning, your breakfast will take 4 minutes to prepare. No excuses. Summary and stakes recap. Let me bring this together. Decision 7. Cook your eggs without added oil or butter. Decision 6. Pair them with avocado and vegetables, not toast and juice. Decision 5. Drink water instead of fruit juice. Decision 4. Eat the whole egg, including the yolk. Decision 3. Eat within 45 to 60 minutes of waking. Decision 2. Reduce evening carbohydrates at least 3 nights per week. Decision 1. Actually start tomorrow morning. Each of these decisions alone makes a measurable difference. Together, they create a compounding effect that can fundamentally change your blood sugar patterns within weeks. This is not about willpower. This is not about deprivation. This is about giving your body the right signals at the right time so it can work with you instead of against you. Your pancreas has been working for you for decades. Even now, even when it's struggling, it's doing its best with the signals you give it. Your liver has been filtering your blood, storing and releasing glucose, trying to keep you alive through every meal, every night, every morning. These organs have not given up on you. They are waiting for better information. Tonight, you have that information. The egg sitting in your refrigerator right now, the one that costs less than $1, that has been part of human breakfast for thousands of years, is not your enemy. Prepared correctly, paired correctly, timed correctly, it is one of the most powerful tools you have. Start tomorrow morning, not because I told you to, because you deserve to wake up 3 weeks from now, check your blood sugar, and feel something you may not have felt in years. Pride, not in the food, in the fact that you finally have the right information and you used it. If you are over 50 and managing your blood sugar, I share practical, science-backed strategies like this every week. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. If this video helped you understand something you didn't know before, one decision, one mechanism, one change you can make tomorrow, give it a like. It takes 1 second, and it helps this message reach others who may be struggling right now without knowing why. Write in the comments, "I'm changing this tomorrow." Tell me which of the 7 decisions you're starting with. I read every comment, and I want to know what's resonating with you. And share this video. If you have a spouse, a sibling, a parent, a friend who is fighting their blood sugar and feeling frustrated despite doing everything they think is right, send them this video. Sometimes all it takes is one piece of information arriving at the right moment to change everything. You may never know whose morning you just transformed. I am Dr. Lexa. Take care of yourselves. You deserve it.